America's week 3 is finally over. We're almost at the play-ins, just one more week left, but the groups are pretty much set in stone. Leviathan and NRG seem like they are going to be in the playoffs straight away, and G2 and 100 Thieves seem unshakable in the other group. The first match this week was Crew versus G2, and I'm not gonna lie, if you watch this match, you watch the death of a team. Crew are just so uncoordinated. I don't understand what's happened. They were so good at their team fight earlier this year. It's just insane how they've fallen off so hard with something so fundamental to their gameplay. And this is something we saw the real depths of later in the week when they played Cloud9, and the result was the same. This team looked like they were destroyed from the inside in this C9 game. They looked like they had given up before they even approached the stage, let alone started playing the game. Unfortunately, that means Crew are currently the worst team in Americas, something that would be unthinkable last week with how Envy and C9 looked. But they've been on an uptick, something that we'll get into later. As for G2, I think I'm finally ready to say that they're back, especially after their second win this week against Sentinels, who look to be really strong despite losing both their games this week. In fact, what it was really nice to see was a superstar performance from Leaf, as it feels like it's been a long time since we've had one, where he's just sort of stood up and said no. That's not to say it's never happened this year, it's just felt like it's been a while. And he struggled in stage 1, and it looks like he's finally found his footing in stage 2, with him on Viper now instead of more flex role. The next match in the week was 100 Thieves versus Sentinels. And although this match started with a banger first map, 15-13 on the Sunset, it then tapered off as Sentinels couldn't find an answer on the next 2 maps. Especially on Ascent, where their attack side started very well, going up 4-1 in the first 5 rounds, but they couldn't find a way to deal with the Timotino op, who just kept getting first blood after first blood, ending up with 100 Thieves bringing it back to an 8-4 half. One thing I would say stylistically is that Sentinels were playing a very all-in attack side, especially on Sunset, which is the kind of thing that 100 Thieves like to play against, as they do this amazing fast flood style and very reactive defense. And this failure to read their style, or like style mismatch, whatever you want to call it, really made Sunset closer than it should have been. With Timotino going 2-10 on first blood, you really should have had a more dominant win from Sentinels. But 100 Thieves were just constantly let back in through the team fights and reactive plays they were doing, which probably wouldn't work against a team like Lev, for instance, as they tend to pause and wait for that reaction. But overall, this was a strong showing from Sentinels, especially, and 100 Thieves just continue to look dominant in this group. Next up was Loud versus C9, and while C9 showed more later, and so we'll talk about that then, Loud kind of disappointed me in this game, which seems strange to say because they won, but honestly, letting C9 get a map off you when they were in this condition is embarrassing. That said, it was nice to see Luke Shaw having a takeover game again, but honestly, you can't really tell much about this team. They beat C9, who had just changed their coach like a day before this game, and so there's really nothing that can be said. Though one thing I will say is I do like them leaning into Luke Shaw on the chamber, as the guy is a beast on the agent. Next up was EG versus MIBR. And I just feel bad, man. EG was so close. I had all these notes about how nice they looked on their attack side, and then I just crossed them out and put, they can't win a clutch to save their lives. They lost 9 clutches in the series. And on top of that, 6 of them were on the first map, with Verno himself getting a total of 6 across the whole series. It was insane. All I can say is 12-5 is real. We've not seen a team fumble that hard in a while, especially because some of these clutches they have numbers advantage in. I will be shocked if this team doesn't end up like Crew and just giving up, especially as the second map was 13-2, and it seemed like that's exactly what's already happened. Next up, we have Envy versus Furia. And last week, I was ready to write off Envy. And this week, they came back with a vengeance. They look like they've practiced. They look like they know what they're doing. They look like a cohesive team for the first time this year. They look like they've got their act together right in time to be in play-ins, whilst Furia have thrown away whatever they had. They've made 3 roster changes this year, for Alum, Nerve, and then their best player, EU. And they've not justified a single one of those moves in the server with results. But enough about them. We're here to talk about Envy and their improvements. The most important thing to say about this Envy team is whilst you look at the stats and you see Knights popped off, Demon 1 popped off, Rossi popped off, getting all over 50 kills in the 3 map. What you have to understand is it wasn't the individuals bailing them out for once. The team looks like a cohesive whole. The strategies made sense. I could see what they were going for. And there was still some trolling, yes, especially from Kesnet. He likes to overheat. But the team had an identity and their theory was good. I would like for this team to be good, but do they have time to get there? That is the big question now. They play NRG next week. I'm not expecting them to win that, but if they look bad, can I really say that they'll make it to playoffs? The answer is no. They just don't have the time. It's good to see that they're making improvements, and I am hopeful for play-ins, but at the moment, they look around the middle of the pack team. Not a team that is going to strive to win the playoffs. Next up was the best match of the week in terms of level of gameplay. Leviathan versus NRG. And these two teams continue to lay it out and not disappoint. The most insane thing about this match is that Leviathan nearly beat NRG on Summit, with it being 13-10, with them losing both pistols and bonuses. And their coach said after the game that they had only ever played one scrim with this comp, which is insane. This team just isn't fair, man. But enough about Lev. We know why they're good. How did they lose? Honestly, it was just a prep thing. NRG came out with a new comp on Haven and Sunset, although it didn't work for them on Sunset. And to be honest, that was more of fixing their roles, putting Kiko back on Smokes and Ethan on Initiator instead of running the Phoenix. But on Haven, NRG's new comp really shone, with Kiko able to go up 6-2 in First Blood, having been unleashed on the Chamber, and Scuba really having a takeover map in terms of impact, with a 1v3 clutch to close the game. Now, the last team that we're going to have to talk about is Cloud9. And reluctantly, I have to admit that their coach change has worked. Now, to be clear, they weren't lighting the world on fire, but they did play a good game. Sure, their opponent was crumbling, but Oxy popped off and they figured out that simple is better in terms of strategies. Their team isn't ready to do complicated strats, and in this meta, you arguably don't need to. As long as your team fights are good and your spacing is good, and you aren't doing anything too egregious, you can get away with a lot less in terms of strategy in this current meta. And C9 are finally taking advantage of that. That said, it's still way too early to be saying they're back, or they're good, or they're going to go on a run, but we'll see. They now have something to look at least.